Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of the Standby Partner Dashboard training course. In this section, we will explore some of the key data concepts and KPIs that are visualized and presented in the Standby Partner Dashboard and show you exactly where to find them. As mentioned earlier, these data concepts are also featured in the Standby Partner annual reports. So you can think of this video as a practical, high-level guide that will help you better interpret both the Standby Partner Dashboard and the Standby Partner annual reports. So without further ado, let's dive in. We begin this section with one of the most important data points you'll encounter in a Standby Partner Dashboard, the request status. These statuses help us understand where each request is in its life cycle and how it's progressing through the system. The first status is vacant. Vacant is typically the initial status when the Standby Partner desk receives a new request. It simply means the position is open, and in addition, no nominations are currently under consideration, because if a candidate has been nominated and is under review, the status would move to nominated. Now let's introduce the nominated status. This status simply indicates that candidates have been nominated and the selection process is underway. If all nominations are eventually rejected, the status may return to vacant, or depending on the situation, it might shift to another status like abandoned, which we will cover shortly. But if a candidate is selected, the status changes to identified. Identified status indicates that a candidate has been selected and is in the onboarding process. It refers to the period after selection but before a start of the deployment. Once the deployment starts, the status changes to field. The field status means the deployment has officially started and the person is already on assignment, but the deployment hasn't ended yet. So it covers one of the most critical phases in a request lifecycle. I mean the period between the start and the end dates of a deployment, when the expert might be on the ground, of course depending on the deployment modality, and supporting children in need during a crisis. Then we will have completed status. This status is used when the deployment has officially ended, but not all requests result in a successful outcome. In some cases, despite best efforts, no suitable candidate is found, and the request is closed without being filled. In this case, the status will be abandoned, meaning UNICEF has decided to end the search process after being unable to identify a match. In addition to these statuses that reflect the natural progression of a request, there are two other statuses that indicate the search process is stopped by the requesting office. The first is cancelled. The cancelled status means that the requesting office has decided not to proceed with the request any longer, and the request has been withdrawn. There can be many reasons for this. Sometimes the emergency situation changes, or the requesting office may find a candidate through another channel. But the important point here is that a cancelled request doesn't mean that the standby partner team hasn't taken any action. In fact, cancellations can happen at any stage of the search process, even when significant effort has already been made by a standby partner team and partners. Alright, the second status and the last status is on hold, which means the recruitment process has been temporarily paused by the requesting office. This usually happens when the need for operational context has shifted, and the office prefers to wait for more clarity before moving forward. It's not a cancellation, the request is still active, but it's currently on standby until a decision is made to proceed. Alright. This was the set of statuses we use to track the situation of a request. But in addition to them, we use some terms to cover broader concepts. For example, we have MET request that we also have it on our dashboard. A MET request refers to any request that has been successfully met, whether its status is identified, filled, or completed. We group these three statuses together because they all indicate that the request has been successfully matched with a candidate, even if the deployment hasn't started yet. At this point, the standby partner team stops considering other nominations and the role is considered met. Now let's define another important concept, the concept of a deployment. We have used the term deployment frequently throughout this training course, but we haven't yet defined it precisely. Now that we have covered request statuses, it's the right time to explain what a deployment actually is. A deployment refers to a request that has moved into action, meaning the assignment has officially started. In this definition, the key factor is the start of the assignment. So, in short, a deployment is a name we give to a request in its part of life cycle where the statuses are either filled or completed. So, roles with the status identified are still in the planning phase and they do not represent technically a deployment, though they are considered a MET request. So now where to find status related visuals in the dashboard. In Search Overview Dashboard, we have a slicer here to apply filtering based on statuses on the page. And then the main statuses are shown in these summary cards here, where you can also see MET requests. And then this chart displays the annual number of requests and how many were successfully met from 2018. Please note that the figures of 2025 reflect data as of the time of course preparation, around end of July, not for the full year. So they should be viewed and interpreted within that context. And in addition to this, we have this donut chart, which shows the distribution of statuses. In the active deployment page, which is a dedicated page to deployments, you'll find a status visual shown in this donut chart here at the bottom right. As expected and in line with deployment definition we just covered, it only includes filled and completed statuses. Finally, on the vacant roles page, we see the statuses in this donut chart and also in this table. As you see, it shows both vacant and nominated statuses. So why nominated status in vacant roles? Because even though nominations exist in a role, it is technically vacant, meaning it is still open and a standby partner team can still accept additional nominations. Now that we have covered the status field and the concept of a deployment, this is a good time to introduce another related concept, active deployments. In fact, we have dedicated an entire page of the dashboard to this topic, which is a sign of its importance. To introduce active deployments, first, let's start with the number of working days in a deployment. Working days simply refer to the duration of a deployment, from start to end. With this definition of working days in mind, we can now define what an active deployment is. A deployment is considered active during a specific period, typically a year, if it includes at least one working day within that year. Let's use this timeline to better explain the concept of an active deployment. A standby partner team received the request from the requesting office in 2022. So 2022 is recorded as the request year. Then, as you see in our example, the deployment actually starts in 2023. That makes 2023 the deployment year, the year when the expert officially starts the deployment. From there, the deployment could extend across multiple years. While that doesn't happen very often, except for headquarter roles to support rapid response teams, I chose such a case as a training example. In this example, as you see, the deployment continues through 2024 and eventually ends sometime in 2025. So when we refer to active deployment years, we mean 2023, 2024, and 2025, because the deployment had at least one working day within each of those years. So why active deployments matter? Before answering this question, let's answer why working days are important. The number of working days are important because they are directly used to calculate one of our most important KPIs, which is the in-kind contributions provided by partners. Right now, the calculation is straightforward. We apply a flat rate of $500 per working day multiplied by the total number of working days. This formula is used across the entire standby partnership network and gives us a standardized estimate of the financial value of partners' contributions. So now we can answer the first question. The active deployments are important because the number of working days of active deployments directly contribute to the in-kind support provided by partners during that year. Without this, we wouldn't have a reliable way to measure and analyze partners' contributions in each year. That's exactly why we have created a dedicated page for active deployments to study them from multiple perspectives using different visuals. Alright, where to find these metrics? Naturally and as expected, the active deployments page is where you'll find all the key figures and KPIs related to the active deployments. For example, here you see the year-related slicers. You know what they mean, and I will show you how to work with them to get your own report in the next video. Then at the top, you'll see the in-kind contribution highlighted in this card. Right next to it, you'll find the total number of working days and then number of active deployments. You'll also see the average working days here. This is another useful metric that is calculated by dividing the total number of working days by the number of active deployments. It gives us a helpful benchmark for understanding how long active deployments typically last in a given year. And finally, in this combo chart, you can see the annual trends, with working days represented by the columns and the number of active deployments shown as a line chart. Now let's talk about another set of important deployment-specific metrics related to partners. In addition to tracking the number of partners supporting deployments, which could be a measure of partners' engagement, we need a more precise KPI to assess how much each partner is contributing to standby partner mechanisms compared to others. That's where the engagement share comes in. The engagement share of a partner is calculated by dividing the number of working days supported by that partner by the total number of working days provided by all partners during a specific period. In our dashboard, it's a year. The engagement share gives us a clear view of each partner's contribution to surge operations and their ranking relative to other partners. So where to find these partner-related metrics? In fact, partners appear in both Surge Overview and Active Deployments pages. On the Surge Overview page, in this card, we see the total number of partners who supported requests made in a specific year. So it's mostly request-based. However, for a more comprehensive view of partners' contributions, we should refer to the Active Deployments page. On the Active Deployments page, you see here a partner slicer to filter the data. And here in this summary card, you see the total number of contributing partners to active deployments. Here, a trend chart displaying the engagement share over time, which also responds to the partner slicer, and a full list of partners with number of working days and active deployments in this combo chart. Now let's shift our focus back to statuses and look at two important rates, both calculated based on request statuses. The first one, and undoubtedly the most important KPI for measuring the performance of the UNICEF Standby Partner mechanism, is the efficiency rate. The efficiency rate shows how many requests were successfully met compared to all active requests. Please pay attention, active requests and not active deployments. By active requests, we exclude those requests that were cancelled or put on hold from the total. The second status-related rate is the abandonment rate. It tells us how often the search process is stopped because a suitable candidate couldn't be found. It's simply calculated as the number of abandoned roles divided by the number of active requests. So to summarize, efficiency rate is a metric that shows our success rate, and abandonment rate points to the gaps. Alright, where to find them? Since these are request-specific rates, we can only find them in Surge Overview page. Overall efficiency rate here in the gauge chart at the top, and also the annual trends of both efficiency and abandonment rates here in this chart. Now let's review a few other categories that apply to both request and active deployment datasets. And we will start with country-related visuals. Alright, let's talk about countries. In this slide, we focus on geographical attributes related to request. First, we have the country of the requesting office, which refers to the country of country office or regional office that submitted the surge request. Then we have the deployment country, which refers to the country where the deployee is meant to provide support. It's important to note that deployment country is not always the same as the country of the requesting office. For example, a country office might request a role for a neighboring country if there are operational or access restrictions. For example, the Egypt country office may request the role to support the state of Palestine. In our dashboard, we just covered the deployment country to keep our dashboard efficient and to the point. So, where to find country-related visuals on our dashboard? Actually, you can find country-related visuals across all three main pages of the dashboard. On the Surge Overview page, you have this slicer here. Then the total number of countries is shown in this summary card. And you'll see a combo chart sorting the countries based on the number of requests, aligned with their corresponding efficiency rates. On the active deployment page, similarly, a slicer here. Then the total number of countries with active deployments is shown here in this card. Then here you find a combo chart that displays the number of working days and active deployments per country. On the vacant roles page, a slicer again. Then you can see the total number of countries with open positions here in this summary card. Below that, you'll see the list of countries and their number of vacant rows in this bar chart. And also on the map, which shows a clearer geographical visualization of our current needs. And finally, the detailed list of countries with other information on vacant rows is available in this table. Okay, next category, support type. In fact, not all requests in the standby partner mechanism are of the same type. So let's briefly look at different support types used in the UNICEF standby partner arrangements. The first and the most common support type is SBP, or standby partner support type. This refers to individual deployments supported by partners to meet specific needs. To avoid confusion with the broader standby partner term used in this course, you can consider full name as standby partner support type. But in our system, we briefly refer to it as SBP. The second most common support type is RRT, or Rapid Response Teams. These are specialized teams recruited at headquarter level and can be quickly mobilized in response to emergencies, offering rapid surge capacity. The third support type is service packages. This support type includes personnel that partners provide as a package with other services and equipments during UNICEF emergencies. And finally, UNVs, UN volunteers. These are individuals who contribute their time and skills to support UNICEF's work through UN volunteers mechanism. All of these support types are important. Each support type plays a key role in helping UNICEF to respond effectively to evolving needs. So, where to find the support type visuals on the dashboard? On the Surge Overview page, you'll find a slicer here that lets you filter this page by support type. And you can also see a detailed breakdown in this donut chart. And on the active deployments page, you'll find a similar setup. A slicer for filtering by support type here, and a donut chart at the bottom showing the distribution. Okay, next category, support areas. Support areas refer to broad areas under which a surge request is made. Each request for deployment is associated with a specific support area, depending on the nature of the role and the operational needs of UNICEF. Let's take a look at 4 support areas to which requests are assigned. The first one is UNICEF programs. These roles support UNICEF's core initiatives to advance children's rights and well-being all around the world. Then we have cluster or sector coordination. These positions contribute to UNICEF's leadership role in the humanitarian cluster system. Specifically, UNICEF leads 3 clusters: WASH, nutrition, and education, as well as one sector, child protection, area of responsibility. This tag is really important in our dashboard, as this is the key term used to identify cluster-related roles. The third area is overall deployments to RRT teams. This is related to experts recruited at headquarter level as part of the rapid response teams. Then the experts are deployed on a roving basis as RRT deployments to various duty stations, depending on emergency needs. And finally, UNICEF operations, which covers technical and support functions in UNICEF logistic and supply chain. Each of these support areas plays a key role in enabling UNICEF's emergency operations across the globe. So, where to find them on the dashboard? In fact, you can find support area data across all 3 main pages of the dashboard. On Surge Overview page, in addition to the slicer that lets you filter by support area that is here, there is also a donut chart that shows the breakdown of requests by support area. And on Active Deployment page, just like the Surge Overview, you'll find both a slicer for filtering and a donut chart displaying the distribution of active deployments across different support areas. And finally, on Vacant Roles page, here you'll find only the slicer, which allows you to filter vacant roles based on their support area. Alright, a very important field, functional areas. Functional areas define the specific technical expertise required for each request. While there are many possible options, here I just cover a selected list of the most commonly used ones. Especially the first 4 functional areas are really important. I mean WASH, education, nutrition, and child protection, which aligns with leadership roles of UNICEF in 4 key clusters. So let's review them quickly. First, WASH, which stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene. It focuses on ensuring safe water, sanitation facilities, and hygiene practices, especially in vulnerable communities. Nutrition. It involves improving the nutritional status of children. Education. It promotes access to quality learning and supports children's educational development. Child protection. It focuses on preventing and responding to violence, exploitation, and neglect experienced by children. Health. It covers access to essential health services, disease prevention, and healthy development for children and families. Cash programming. It refers to providing cash transfers or vouchers to vulnerable groups in crisis areas to meet basic needs. And finally, supply and logistics, which ensures the procurement and delivery of essential goods and equipment, especially during emergencies. These functional areas help a standby partner team match the right expertise with the needs on the ground. So, where to find functional area visuals on the dashboard? In fact, you can find functional area visuals across all 3 main pages. On Surge Overview page, you'll see the slicer here, aligned with the combo chart that combines functional areas as a column chart with the efficiency rate as a line chart. On Active Deployments page, similarly, there is a slicer and a combo chart. The combo chart shows working days as columns alongside the number of active deployments as a line chart. On vacant rows page, you see this slicer and a bar chart showing the number of vacant rows for each area. And also you can see the list of areas in this table. All right, professional level or P level. The professional level or P level refers to level of expertise required for a role. It's a key indicator that helps us understand the seniority and qualifications expected by the requesting office. You can see the different P levels and what they represent in this table. And where to find P level information in the dashboard? You can find P level data across all three main pages of the dashboard. On Surge Overview page, it's shown in a donut chart at the bottom here. And on Active Deployments page, it's similarly shown in a donut chart. And on Vacant Rows page, it's displayed in the last column of this table, where you can see the required P level for each open position. Congratulations on finishing this part. It was a long and concept-heavy section, so feel free to review the materials, and of course, don't hesitate to reach out to a Standby Partner team if you have any questions. I wrap up this part here and invite you to move to part 3, where we will focus on how to use dashboard interactively, especially through filters. So see you soon in the next video.